here, buddy. And this is going to be doing a sort of a showdown between a stock Ambiano Cordless Hand Mixer versus my modified Ambiano Cordless Hand Mixer. I picked this here up at Aldi last week or a couple weeks ago, and it's, of course, in totally original form. Paid $15 for it, and we're going to compare it against this modified one. And I'll go over what I've done to this mixer here later in this video. So we put them side by side. You can see one difference already. For one, this one I have modified to accept the KitchenAid style beaters, and this one has holes in the casing for added ventilation and cooling. This one, of course, has the stock beaters that came with it, and you can see absolutely no holes whatsoever for ventilation. So I'm pretty sure it's not going to do so well for this one. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. First, I'll let you listen to each and watch them run. So first, the stock Aldi Ambiano Cordless Mixer. And now for this modified one. Sounds a bit different. Again, we'll go over the details later in this video. So, in this video we're going to be making zucchini bread, and we're going to start out using this mixer right here. And if this one cannot do the job, we'll have to finish it with the other mixer. And then, of course, I'm going to be doing a second batch of zucchini bread using the other one. That being said, I've got all the ingredients ready to mix. I got dry ingredients here, wet ingredients here. I still have to add zucchini. I still got to add the eggs and vanilla extract. But that being said, let's demonstrate the Ambiano Cordless Hand Mixer on dry ingredients. Both of these mixers are fully charged, and you can see, got a cloud of flour here. This thing runs very fast on first speed. Very effective at mixing this flour and stuff, but it's kind of making a mess doing it at the same time. Would be nice for it to run a little slow. And there is a cloud of flour in the kitchen now. That's low, medium, high. Making sure they're both in there, and yes they are. So yes, as you can see, it really throws the flour, because, I mean, normally with flour you want it to run a little slower, but I mean, on speed 1, this is literally it. A little fast. Alright, next up we're going to be beating some eggs. So we got 3 eggs as well as some vanilla extract in a bowl here. So don't freak out when you see the eggs looking dark. It's because there's extract already in there. Literally, it slung it out of the bowl. Too fast on low speed. Yes, that's way too fast. It didn't sling much out, but it did sling a little bit out on the floor. Alright, I'm going to add this to our mixture. Alright, so we're getting into some thicker stuff here. Okay, so you saw how it was slinging flour everywhere. Runs really fast, but watch what happens when we put some load on this. You can see it slows down really fast and it bogs down quite fast. So this is still on speed 1. Really bogging it down. You can see we've already started to drain our battery a little bit here. Yeah, this is not looking good. See, it's really underpowered. The motor wants to spin really fast, but it doesn't have low end torque. That is the problem with this mixer, as you'll see later in the video. Alright, so let's go ahead and add our zucchini. Oh boy, this is going to be really tough on it. Yeah, boys and girls, I don't even know if this mixer is going to make it through the test. I'm not going to kill it. I'm going to be sure not to kill it because I do want to modify this one just like I did the other one. I do not want to fry the electronics in it. So if it really struggles, I'm going to say that's it. So let's go ahead and try to mix in this zucchini. So adding the zucchini in did help a little bit. It loosened the mixer up a little bit. But now we're getting back to our first issue, which is speed. I mean, this is 1. That's high and it's slinging everywhere. So again, on speed 1, it's making quite a mess. It'd be nice to slow this thing down. Alright, so now we get to add the wet ingredients to our dry ingredients. This is where things are going to get really fun. And the thing about this mixer is you fill it, the surface of the mixer hardly feels warm because the stock motor has no cooling fan on it. So the motor is getting hot, but yet the outside of the mixer does not feel hot. Now granted, you can actually feel just a tad bit of heat on it, but yeah, here's where the fun part comes. As you can hear, it's really bogging down. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this because I think it's a little, there's not enough water in it. Alright, here's speed 2. And you can hear it's really bogging it down. Now granted, it does have some torque, but it's not a lot. I would kick this up to speed 3, but I'm afraid I'm going to burn out the motor. it's really pushing it hard. Now I should note, I do typically run the other mixer up all the way up to speed 3 when doing this, but I do it, well, for one, because I want to get every bit of power out of it, but the other thing is I don't have to worry about it burning up, as you'll see later in the video. Let's do 3 for a moment. And granted, it's hanging in there, but it's really... You can hear the motor is wanting to go fast, but it's not being able to go fast. Therefore, it's, yeah, it's, I can feel the whole thing getting hot. Now the bottom down here is getting warm. That's where the battery pack is. So, the thing is, this motor wants to go fast, okay? In this application, it can go fast when it's doing really light duty stuff, but when you put moderate to heavy work on it, it just really slows it down, and because of that, the motor is drawing an insane amount of current because it wants to go fast. And when that happens, the thing literally can burn out. I don't foresee these things lasting long in their stock condition. Now this is zucchini bread. This is, I'd say pretty moderate. It's not super thick. It's not really thick. Now for example, another thing I make is chocolate chip cookies, and the cookie recipe that I have, the dough gets really thick. And I actually have used a set of dough hooks on my other mixer and ended up stripping a gear out. The motor was doing fine. It was just the stuff was so thick. Now granted, this one can put down torque, but not for long. You'll see smoke come from it before long if you really push it hard enough. So one more time, just to make sure everything here is mixed up. I'm stopping because I want this to not overheat. This is low speed. I think I might add just a little more water to this. Not much, but just a little bit. Now another thing is the beaters on this mixer. The dough, as you can see, is riding up the beaters almost to the mixer itself. We'll see what happens with the other one, with its KitchenAid style beaters. I want to say I think they did put a better battery in this newer mixer. Now on the box it says it's 1500 milliamp hour. Now on the back it says 1500 milliamp hour. But this one is lasting longer than my other one. It still has 2 bars. Soon to have 1 bar. To put in perspective, the other one that I modified, When I made zucchini bread with it, it was similar to this, but it started to smoke, and the motor got so hot that the oil burned off the bearings and caused the motor to make a high-pitched squeal. So this thing, you can't run it for long because the motor has no cooling. It did mix the batter, but boy oh boy, it really just acted like it was just really slowing it down. And the low speed, you could see it was slinging stuff everywhere. Now one could say, well, that's poor speed control, and I could sort of agree. It only has 3 speeds, but then again, it's only $15. It did, in fact, mix our batter. So we have to get it credit. It did mix our batter without burning up, and it still has 2 bars according to the battery thing. So we are finished with that mixer, and we'll just review, hear how it sounds. So you can hear it really wants to go. It's got sort of a hot smell to it. The other one, as I think I mentioned, let the magic smoke out with the original motor. Alright, that being said, I'm going to pour this batter into 2 pans, and we're going to start over, make a second batch with the modded mixer. Okay, we are now ready to move on to the second batch. That being said, it's going to get started. We're using my modded mixer this time. As you can see, this one's not throwing flour nearly as bad. I mean, there's a little bit of a dusting on the side of the bowl, which I think is typical. Alright, let's switch over to the eggs. Let's beat our eggs. Not slinging eggs out of the bowl this time. Alright, go ahead and add in the egg mixture to our sugar and oil. A little bit of a slowdown. Now I should mention that we are using much larger beaters on this one. Let's go ahead and add our zucchini. Now this zucchini here is fresh. The other was frozen. And when I froze the other zucchini, I did measure out roughly 3 cups. That's how much I put in this, 3 to 4 cups. Alright, let's go ahead and combine this zucchini. Still on speed 1. Okay, here comes the fun. When we combine the two mixtures together, so dump it all in there. Speed 2. Down to 2 bars. You have to add some water to this. If I leave it super thick like that, it tends to not rise well. I'm going to demonstrate speed 3. Down to 1 bar. It uses more power when you're on speed 3. Now the other one I kept it on speed 2 most of the time, but this one here I will run it on speed 3. You can see the way this thing's working. It might remind you of a corded mixer. Granted, it's not as strong as a corded mixer, but it's kind of up there. And again, we're using larger beaters on this one. Now it says we have 1 bar left, but it will continue to run for quite a little while on just 1 bar. Mixer is just barely warm. And I should note the motor in this one has a cooling fan. I kind of just spilled the beans there a little bit on what I did to this thing. Okay, I think we are just about good to go here. Okay, our batter is ready. Let's go and get it into pans. Now I can bake all 4 of these loaves. So I got 4 loaves ready to go into the oven once the oven finishes preheating. Okay, now we got both the loaves in the oven. Let's go ahead and talk about these 2 mixers. So again, this one is completely stock, have not done anything to it. This one, however, has had a few things done to it. The most important of which is had a motor change out. So over on QCure channel, I posted a video last year doing the motor swap. However, I did not cover every single bit of it. But the motor that's in here is out of a 15.6 volt dustbuster vacuum cleaner. So the motor came out of something that ran on a higher voltage. The motor actually has a cooling fan built into it, so it helps keep the windings of the motor cool when it's running. So I should also mention this motor has a 5-pole armature rather than a 3-pole armature like this one over there has. What that means is, since the motor was intended to run at a higher voltage, when you run it at a lower voltage it actually runs slower. And because of this motor being the way it is, I think with the 5 poles and also having a higher count of turns on the windings, it has higher torque. So it doesn't bog down nearly as much. Well, for one thing, it doesn't run so fast that it slings everything everywhere. Now, I do wish this mixer did have a little bit slower speed one. Maybe if it had 4 speeds, it would have been nice. But again, it's a $15 mixer we're talking about here. But my thing is, the manufacturer of this product, all they had to do was one thing different. Select a different motor. Yes, it probably would have cost a few dollars extra. They should have selected a motor that had a lower RPM. Maybe a motor that was rated for a higher voltage. Like, for example, these motors, they're rated for a voltage range. Like, let's say from 6 volts to 12 volts or whatever. It depends on the motor. Not one motor is the same. So this one, again, out of 15.6 volt dustbuster vacuum cleaner. The process of changing it was a bit advanced because there is a brass worm gear on here. Let me see, there's a brass worm gear there that is heat pressed onto the shaft, and the way you get it off of the existing motor is by putting the existing motor in the freezer and then taking your lighter after the thing has been sitting for, the motor's been sitting for like at least a few hours to get nice and cold. Take it out of the freezer, then take your lighter to it. The gear there, superheat that gear, and because the gear is made out of brass, it expands at a different rate. So when you superheat it, it can come off. Now, I ended up destroying the other motor getting this off because it's quite a process. Getting it onto the new motor is not as difficult, but getting the gear off the other motor is a bit more advanced. If I do, which I am going to do this mod to this mixer here, when I do, I'll be sure to post a full video over on QQ channel of that process. Again, it's a little bit advanced, but again, 15.6 volt dustbuster vacuum cleaner, cordless vacuum cleaner. I'm sure if you look at thrift stores you might find one, preferably one that has NiCad cells in it, because those are the ones that usually get chunked because the batteries go bad. Lithium ion is much more reliable. But yeah, you just look around your thrift stores and find you one, you can scrap the motor out of it like I did and fix this one. Alright, now for the other things I've done to it. Obviously, I've drilled the holes through the cover. It's funny, the cover comes off so easy because I've had it off so many times. And I put holes in the back, again, for better ventilation. Another thing I've done to this one is you can see these gears. Those are not the original gears. So I think I mentioned earlier in this video I stripped a gear out on this when I was baking cookies one time. I was able to, me and my colleague at work were able to reverse model the stock gear and create an STL file to 3D print. And these are 3D printed using a polycarbonate PETG blend filament. And they perform the same, if not better, than the original gears. One thing I did do to these gears when I was in the model is I slightly increased the diameter of the through shaft. That way there's less play inside there. And I've also decreased the backlash on the gears because these gears do tend to wear in a little bit. You can see there's a little bit of play there, and it's hard to see. You can hear it. Just a little bit of play in the gear. You want just a little bit of play. Another thing I did, which I forgot to mention, this might be more relevant for you, is to install the KitchenAid beaters. I had to take this little eject fork out, which when you disassemble this product, it comes out pretty easily. I had to take this fork and I had to trim off some of the plastic off of these little spines, if you call it that. These stick into the inside of the gears to actually push the beaters out when you press this button. Now, one drawback to my colleague's gear design is there's no recess in the top part of the gear. We did that because we want these gears to be as strong as possible, considering they're FDM 3D printed. One thing I might have to do to this is I might have to trim off some of this plastic here around the edge of the little rods that push through. Now this generally can and will eject the beaters, but again, that's a very minor inconvenience for me. Another thing I've done is I acquired some UV curing resin that when it cures as a hard material, and inside here is a void, like a little valley in there. They did this to conserve plastic, but as a result it made this frame a little weaker. I filled that void in with resin to firm this up. That way, if you're mixing harder materials, your gears are not, well, your beaters and gears are not doing this, which that will increase the wear on the gear substantially. So again, the resin mod is not really something you absolutely need to do. If you want to get more out of this product, change the motor out for one from a 15.6 volt dustbuster vacuum. Oh, I forgot to mention, on the gear I also had to trim down the shaft a little bit because it was a little too long. Actually, I don't think you would need to do that, but when you're trying to get that gear on there, it's best to have as short of a shaft as you need. So there you go. So yeah, I wanted to do this video because I wanted to show, this product, it is a $15 mixer. I mean, $15 for a cordless hand mixer I think is a bargain. But there's one thing that the designers of the product really should have done, was chosen a better motor. It would only cost maybe a little more. I mean, choose a slightly better motor that's rated for lower speed but higher torque. And this would have been, I'd say, dare I call it, perfect for $15 or $20. I mean, use a motor that has lower speed, higher end torque, has a built-in cooling fan, and for goodness sakes, put some holes in this thing. That way it can stay cool. So there you have it. That is a comparison test between the stock Aldi Ambiano Cordless Hand Mixer and my modified one. So anyways, I'll get y'all a look at the zucchini bread when it's done. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.